Can I have Jackie come up here? You're gonna get in the corner. So I actually had a couple nominations. I only have one with me. The other one was from Jen Pelican, and I know it was very nicely written. But this one is from Rowan, who formerly worked for Jackie, and I'm going to read it off. There's never been a day where Jackie isn't 100% invested in the residents here at Fox Run. Whether or not it's an outing day, a calendar planning day, or an in-house event with music or other entertainment, she is there working hard and making sure residents are always having a wonderful time. She is kind, patient, and in tune with resident needs, always keeping in mind suggestions for restaurants, events, or events to attend. Always, Jackie is thorough and covering every base possible to make events and happenings go as well as they can. And if they don't, she makes do anyway. During the human slot machine event in the health center, Jackie engaged, did anyone see that, by the way? It was so entertaining. Let's see, during the human slot machine event in the health center, Jackie engaged with residents and added the fun while she herself was in the machine during any gaming events. Boggle, Rummy Cube, 5 Crowns, etc. She is on it too, helping to explain the rules and games to residents who may not have played before. She's just as well spoken when demonstrating crafts, and you can see the results of those craft events outside of the resident apartments all over. Side too. Also, in the various new events she brings to Fox Run cannot be overstated. Everyone seemed to really enjoy the Buffalo Improv House night, visiting back in January, as well as the energy she brought to karaoke night at the end of February. In short, Jackie is a wonderful person whose worth here cannot be overstated. Creating and managing everything in regards to the calendar is a load of work, and she does it well. And it was closed with, "I love you, Jackie." So what a really, really nice thing. I always like to add my 2 cents. You really have brought a new dynamic, a new energy, and it's so positive, and I can just see it in all the faces of our residents, everything you do. Thank you so much for just being here.
Thank you.
Do you want to say anything?
Okay, you guys already know how much I absolutely adore every single one of you, but I want to thank you all for the never-ending amounts of support and encouragement every single day. You make coming to work an absolute joy. So thank you all.
Oh, Chuck.
This was all unscripted, I swear. That was great. So you can see why she's clearly the MVP. Thank you, Jackie. Quick update, nothing new on our expansion project. We are still just kind of a holding pattern. The state is being the state, and they're not responding to our requests. Where are we with our application? So I'll keep you posted. We're still hopeful that we break ground this year. I know we talked about June, then July, and now we're hoping for fall. So I'll keep you all in the loop, but really nothing has happened in months. And my last announcement, we have the veterans display over by the mailroom, which is absolutely wonderful. What a great idea, and it looks way better than I expect. I had high expectations, and it's so much better. The tree that was there with the leaves that belongs to UCHS, that is going to be moved, and it's going to be down the hallway that bridges between independent living and our health center. So we're going to designate the entire hallway. Part of that hallway is going to be taken out once we do our expansion, because the commons is going to move and grow. But there's the one hallway that has the incline heading toward the health center. We're going to put the photos of the different UCHS communities, the timeline, and then have the tree there. So it's actually going to be pretty visible. So I know folks were concerned when it came down. We will absolutely, of course, we're putting it back up in a nice visible place. So any questions for me? Michelle, did you have an announcement? Anticipating.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Next Thursday, a week from yesterday, we have our next art opening. Paulette Krakowski is the artist, and if you've walked through the gallery, it is 180 degrees different than our last art show. Equally as talented, equally as beautiful. I just wanted to read a little bit about her bio, which is posted on the wall. Following Bill's lead with my glasses. Paulette Krakowski. I have been a local artist for over 45 years living in Western New York. Presently, I am a member of the West Seneca Art Society, a juried member of the Arts and Crafts Guild of the historic Roycroft campus, and vice president, Niagara Frontier Water Society and the Central New York Water Society. So as you can tell, she is well-versed in many aspects and well-known throughout the art community. So I do encourage you all to come down on Thursday. The artist will be in the gallery at 6:30 for you to meet her. And then at 7 o'clock, her presentation will be here in the event center. And if you take a look, you can really, and you do have to get in kind of close because her work is a little bit smaller, but you can see the fine detail with the pencil and the color and the watercolors together. So do check it out and hope to see you Thursday. Thank you.
Just a few announcements I had. We were supposed to have our first field day today outside, but it's a little wet and calling for rain later. So we will have field day rescheduled for some other time in the summer. But today at 2:30 we are going to be playing balloon volleyball right here in the event center, and Dining Services is going to provide us with a refreshing beverage. So if you want to come, we'll have some staff. Hopefully some of you can come down and join in on the fun. My next announcement, I want to thank Gretchen and Dennis Dooling for anyone who attended yesterday's program. We had the executive director of American Friends of the Lafayette here, Chuck Schwam. It was really, really great. It is up on Fox Run YouTube, so I urge you when you have some time, if you want to check that out. It was the 200th anniversary of Lafayette's visit to Western New York. So the speaker was very, a lot of insight to that time in history, and the ties to Buffalo are really unique. Some events for next week. The Goodwill truck will be here starting on Tuesday, the 10th through the 12th. So that mobile donation unit will be right outside the Commons parking lot. Matt said for any larger items, if you want to put a work order in the day before, if you need some help moving something larger out, we're hoping to fill that trailer. Goodwill's a wonderful organization, so and anything you have, that's open for employees and for staff. I'm sorry, staff and residents. And next week the weather is looking nice for our third time's a charm spring event. I know we're approaching summer, but next Wednesday, we have the horse and carriage rides that are going to be happening around campus. If you've signed up already, you don't have to sign up again, but we still have openings. Dining Services will be having lunch, pulled pork sandwiches out front, outside, and we also will have Monaco here with some flowers. You will be able to put that on your monthly service fee, so I will have some invoices, so anything you want to buy, we'll have some plants, some hanging baskets, so please come down and join the fun. And the last thing I had was we are looking for Thursday gift shop, a gift shop volunteer to work the gift shop. We've had different people covering, but we are looking. I urge you to, even if you're a new community member, it's a really great way to meet people here. The shift is 11 to 1, even if you wanted to pick a day or two a month versus every Thursday. Jackie will work with you on that, but please see her or Chelsea if you're interested in volunteering. Any questions?
What was the date for the market?
The market is going to be next Wednesday, June 11th, and that starts at 11:30 right outside the Commons. Okay, Barb.
This is a Jackieism. If you are wanting to become musical, she set us up with a ukulele group, and we have plenty of room for more ukulele players on Sunday the 15th at 3 o'clock, and you don't have to have a ukulele. The two women that come bring ukuleles, and if nothing else, you can sing with us. So do join us.
Thank you, Barb, and I believe you purchased one, correct?
I did.
Okay, and then I would like to have our Director of Dining Services, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. I just wanted to take a couple minutes today to introduce you to someone you have all been long waiting for. Before I do that, I just want to preface that this is not an open forum. We'll do Q&As another time. And I just wanted to go over a few things that I know you're going to ask. The one question we get all the time is, when is our menu going to change, right? So our dining team right now, myself, chef, all of the managers, we are going through a training for a new menu software. So our biggest menu change is going to be coming in the fall, winter. That doesn't mean you're stuck with the current menu, don't worry. You will see lots of changes, which I will let somebody else talk about what their plans are coming up here soon. But I just wanted to let you know that that is happening. That's going to hopefully give us access to some online resources and a lot of new things for you as well. As you know, I have been looking for an executive chef for almost a year. There have been hundreds of applicants and nobody was just right until now. So we have found someone who's a great fit for our team, who's extremely talented. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about himself. So he's going to come up here in a second. But please welcome our new executive chef, Tashin Sanders, to the team.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Again, my name is Tashin Sanders, or Chef. I'm originally from Buffalo. I left after I graduated. A little higher, sorry. Yes. I'm originally born and raised in Buffalo. After I graduated culinary school in 2019. Hold it up higher again? Sorry.
It takes practice.
Keep it there, yeah.
Yes.
I relocated to New York City to just kind of really push myself and expand my skills. There, I've had the pleasure of training under some amazing chefs. I have a wide variety of backgrounds, so hopefully I can bring a lot of diversity to the cuisine here for you. My background is in Southeast Asian cuisine, Italian, French, Latin, Peruvian. So just about anything you can think of, I can make. I've had the pleasure of cooking for many different actors, NFL, NBA, and NHL teams. And now, luckily, I have the honor of cooking for all of you. So hopefully you'll enjoy things. If you don't, feel free to let me know. I do enjoy making adjustments. And that's it. Should I talk about some of the new stuff I'm bringing?
Sure. Yeah,
Okay.
show me your ideas.
If you've kind of noticed over the last couple of weeks, I've tried to introduce a couple of the dishes, tweak some of the things that are staples that you guys enjoy. I'm learning your likes and dislikes every day. So my goal is to just kind of elevate everything. You're in a nice restaurant instead of like a fine dining restaurant. I want to bring you some more fine dining meals. So different proteins and fish when I can, different sauces. I want to try to get everything made from scratch for you guys so you can really just kind of taste the love in every bite. Thank you.
So yes, so the wait is over. I hope you understand now why we waited so long for the right person. And I do encourage you, he is coming up with a lot of new menu items. You may see some things on the menu that have different names, different things that you're unfamiliar with. Chef is also doing a great job with our service team and making them try the food, training them, quizzing them on the menu. So if you see something on the menu that you don't know that's new, ask your server, and I bet they're going to know what it is, or they're certainly going to go find out. So yes, we are very excited, and welcome to the team.
Okay, and I would like to introduce our speaker for this morning. Spencer Morgan is here. He is the Executive Director of the Theodore Roosevelt House, so please give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Allison. Good morning, everyone. I first want to thank you for letting me invade your morning here. I'm a Lakeview resident, so this has given me a wonderful excuse to work from home today. So I appreciate being with you this morning. And I want to also thank Barb Oland for passing my card around. So if you are bored to death, she is the one you can blame. Well, the Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural National Historic Site, first of all, who's been there? Good. I was hoping I'd see a lot of hands. I'm not surprised because this is a staple in our community. Buffalo came together to save this building, and it is still with us as a premier example of what preservation can do in a community. But let's talk a little bit about the story. I know some of you probably heard this story, some of you may have heard it and be very familiar with it, but I'm hoping I can give some more context to that story and talk about some of the things we're doing now and what the future looks like for Buffalo and the TR site. This man is Ansley Wilcox. Ansley Wilcox lived at the house at 641 Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, New York, which is now the Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural Site. Ansley was a prominent attorney in Buffalo. He was a member of the Buffalo Club, and he was a founding member of Wanaka Country Club. Ansley married not one, but two of the Rumsey daughters. Who's familiar with the Rumsey family? You've heard the name Rumsey Woods. Yes. Ansley married Cornelia Rumsey. Oops. Does this go by itself? Okay. I won't touch that. Oh, thank you. Ansley married Cornelia Rumsey, one of Mr. Rumsey's daughters, and they had a daughter together. This will come back in the future. I will explain why. Unfortunately, Cornelia did pass away at a young age, and barring some time, Mr. Wilcox married her sister, Mary Grace Rumsey. All those Victorians. Very common in that time. So this gentleman married Cornelia and eventually her sister, Mary Grace. And with Mary Grace, he had another daughter. So he had two daughters. Do you see where I'm going with this? Sounds kind of familiar to a certain president we know and love. Ansley and Theodore Roosevelt's relationship goes back to the 1870s and 1880s when Theodore Roosevelt was first working in New York State, in the New York State legislature. These two men helped create Niagara Falls as America's first state park. Of course, Theodore Roosevelt went on to become governor of New York State, but Theodore Roosevelt also had his own tragedy in his life. He too had a young wife and then had a young daughter, and lost his young wife after giving birth to that daughter, and remarried and had another family. Together, these two built a friendship, and they built a history with each other. And I think a lot of that commonality comes back to their family life, and why were they so close for many, many decades, which is why Theodore Roosevelt came to Buffalo and took the presidential oath of office in his house. So I wanted to introduce Ansley because I think he's one of the unsung heroes of this story that never really gets his full credit. Now, 1901, it was a different climate then, but it is very much similar to what we're going through today in politics. President McKinley was one of the most popular presidents to ever be reelected. He was the last Civil War veteran president, and in 1901, he had just been reelected for a second term. The young Theodore Roosevelt was his vice president. If you're familiar with the politics of the time, Theodore Roosevelt was not well liked. He was a progressive running in the Republican Party. He was referred to as that damn cowboy. And a lot of politicians feared him being in the vice presidential chair because he was just one beating heart away from becoming president of the free nation. The Pan American Exposition took place here in Buffalo 124 years ago. In May of 1901, President McKinley was supposed to attend the opening ceremonies of the Pan Am Expo here in Buffalo, but unfortunately his wife, Ida McKinley, the First Lady, was ill at the time. So he stayed behind in Washington to take care of his wife and sent Theodore Roosevelt to Buffalo in his stead. There's a number of great photographs of Theodore Roosevelt at the opening ceremonies of the Pan American Grounds. He was given a reception at the 20th Century Club, and he was also given a ball at the, oh, it does go right side, see?
Yeah.
The remote is possessed. He was also given a ball at the Butler Mansion, which is just just kitty corner to where the TR site is on North Street. Why was the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo? Well, we had just harnessed the power of Niagara Falls to create electricity. Buffalo was the first city to be electrified. In fact, the TR site itself at 641 Delaware was partially electrified. They were slowly taking the gas fuel out of the houses and converting them all to electric. This festival also showcased a partnership and friendship between the two continents of North and South America, which is why the Pan Am earned its name. Finally, in September of 1901, McKinley made the trip to Buffalo. McKinley came with his wife, Ida, and they were welcomed with full fanfare to Buffalo and to the Pan American grounds. On September 5th, McKinley was joined by the rest of Buffalo and millions of people who were on the fairgrounds welcoming him for President's Day. He was given a luncheon at what is now the Buffalo History Museum, which, if you don't know the history of the Pan Am grounds, all of those buildings were meant to be temporary, with the exception of our own Buffalo History Museum, the former Buffalo and Erie County Historical Society. That was built as the only permanent building for the Pan Am fairgrounds. McKinley enjoyed a lunch there on September 5th, and he and his wife returned to their host's house, the Milbourne family home. Anyone familiar with the Milbourne house? I see hands, good. It no longer stands. Barb, can you tell me where that was?
Canisius, isn't it?
Correct. The Milbourne house once stood in what is now the Canisius High School parking lot. In the 1950s, when the priests took residence there, the building was basically designated as unsound and structurally unfit for housing anyone. So they did have to tear it down, sadly. But that is where McKinley was in residence while he was in Buffalo. The Milbourne house is just a mile walk north of the TR site in Delaware, so that the place is very important to this story. The following day, oh, here's another great image. This is from our own Buffalo. This is in Buffalo in 1901. This is the Pan Am Fairgrounds. I know it's kind of hard to see. Let me try to use this. Right here is President McKinley, standing under this dais. He's giving the speech of the president on President's Day. It's amazing to think that something like this once stood in what is now North Buffalo. This is the Milbourne House. It no longer stands with us today. This is a huge loss for preservation. Today there is a blue and yellow state marker there, now commemorating the site where McKinley was in residence. But unfortunately that building was torn down in the 1950s. Again, that fact comes in important in the end too. This photo was taken on September 6, 1901. This is President McKinley and Ida McKinley. They're leaving the Milbourne house. As you can imagine, just like today, there would be boards of photographers on the street side, some policemen in the wakes. Very excited to brief the president as he's leaving the house each morning. The day of September 6th, will live in infamy, but it started just like any other day, a quiet day. Ida and President McKinley, with some of their Buffalo representatives, took a trip to Niagara Falls to visit Niagara Falls for the first time. They returned to the house. Ida was again ill, so she stayed at home and McKinley was brought back to the Pan Am grounds. Here is the president on his way to the Temple of Music on September 6, 1901. You can kind of see him there with his hand raised in the back of that carriage. Again, he returned to the Temple of Music on the Pan Am grounds without his wife Ida. At that event, he had a reception, and he would greet every single person who would come in front of him. It's a different time when you think about it. I mean, Theodore Roosevelt himself used to host a New Year's Day party where anyone could just walk off the street into the White House and meet the president and the First Lady and his family. I can't imagine any of us having that ability to do that now at the White House or in the past 20 years. We wouldn't get closer than Pennsylvania Avenue, but back then, it was very common to be 3 feet away from the president and shake his hand. Here's the Temple of Music. Again, another temporary building that was built in Buffalo. This is the site where President McKinley was shot by an anarchist, Leon Schulkos. Here are the hordes of people around the Temple of Music, the site where the site where President McKinley was shot by Leon Shulkoff, just to kind of give you the gravity for what the Pan Am was. Again, millions of people came to Buffalo to see this fair in 1901, to see electricity for the first time, to see its power for the first time, and to see these important historical figures. Again, we see people lined up to greet the president as he enters the Temple of Music. And of course, the fateful event itself. So what happened? Well, Leon Shulkoff, who was a troubled anarchist, had followed McKinley around for some time. He was born in America, and he eventually made his way to Buffalo. He was an unemployed factory worker, and he approached the president. He had a pistol hidden in a white handkerchief. If you're interested, both the pistol and the handkerchief are on display at the Buffalo History Museum. He approached the president to shake his hand, and he fired 2 shots into the president's abdomen at point-blank range. He was captured very quickly by those around him. This is Leon himself. Leon, of course, was tried very quickly and was issued the death sentence, and he would be electrocuted by the end of 1901. One of our favorite pieces in our collection, actually, is the transfer documents for Leon Shulkoff as he was transferred to Auburn Prison from Buffalo. McKinley was shot. Wounds are serious. However, there was great hope that the president would survive, and it appeared that he would. McKinley and the other members of the cabinet summoned Theodore Roosevelt back to Buffalo. So Roosevelt rushed back to Buffalo to meet with the president. The cabinet started to assemble. The Secret Service was already here in our city. And it was a long conversation to say, what do we do next? Again, this went on for days, almost 2 weeks that President McKinley lingered. Again, they thought it was possible that he would survive. However, Roosevelt had a pre-planned vacation to the Adirondacks with his family that he was trying to cancel so that he could stay in Buffalo with the president. The cabinet insisted he go on that vacation with his family to the Adirondacks because from an optics standpoint, it would look like all was well, and they weren't fearful for the president's life. So they sent Theodore Roosevelt and his family to the Adirondack Mountains, hours and hours away from Buffalo, so that they would show the American people that all was well, and McKinley would survive. On September 12th, unfortunately, gangrene had set in, which was a death sentence in those days. And unfortunately, the very popular President McKinley was now on his deathbed at the Milborne House with his wife by his side. I threw this in here. This is an interesting picture. This is the ambulance from the Pan Am Fairgrounds. Now, there is a great debate among presidential historians as to who the first president was that rode in an automobile. Many historians have written that Theodore Roosevelt, in fact, was the first president to ride in an automobile. However, this proves wrong. Although he may not have been conscious, McKinley was transported by ambulance on the Pan Am Fairgrounds, so he was the first president to, in fact, ride in an automobile. I asked my collections manager if I could bring it with me, and she, of course, said no, understandably so. But in our collection, we actually have some of the medical equipment that was used on President McKinley while he was being tended to at the Pan Am grounds. We do have in our collection the needle that was used to sew up his body. And we do have a sample of his blood, actually, as part of that as well. We're actually in the process of digitizing that entire collection with a New York State grant now, so that collection will be accessible virtually on our website very soon. And again, here's the home of John Milborne, where the president was in residence and ultimately died. On September 13th, Roosevelt again was summoned back to Buffalo. And in around 2 a.m. on September 14th in the morning, unfortunately, President McKinley passed. Again, his wife by his side, breathing. the Milborn family and residents at the home grieving. A telegram wire went out to announce the death of the president. Roosevelt, again, he was on the top of Mount Marcy in the Adirondacks. There were no cell phones, there were no telegrams up there, there was nothing, but there was a note. A word was sent to him to come back to Buffalo. He was bundled into a carriage and rushed down the side of the Adirondacks. And it wasn't until he reached the North Creek railway station he received a telegram that in fact the president had expired, and he was now president of the United States. Roosevelt endured an 11-hour trip from the Adirondacks to Buffalo, not knowing what he would see or how he would be received or what would happen when he arrived there. Of course, the word started to break. Buffalo Courier. Who remembers Buffalo Courier? Anybody? A couple hands. Buffalo Evening News too earlier. It's amazing. Our archive collection is phenomenal. Just to learn about the history of Buffalo's newspapers and print media. Fascinating how many newspapers went out every single day. Multiple copies of papers went out through Buffalo and through the rest of the media across the nation, updating everybody as to the president's condition. So Theodore Roosevelt arrived in Buffalo. He was at the downtown depot. Ansley Wilcox went and met him there and said, "Come back to my house." And that's what happened. Ansley brought Theodore back to 641 Delaware Avenue. Roosevelt, by the way, didn't come with any luggage or any trappings, nothing like that. So luckily, Ansley and Theodore were about the same size. So Ansley fitted him out with his best suit, with his best clothes, and got him ready, got the new president ready to start his presidential era. Fun story. I mentioned Wanaka Country Club, first of all. Does anyone know where Wanaka is? It's not too far from here. Again, Lakeview. Love Hamburg. The Wilcoxes had a house across from where Wanaka is now. That's where Mrs. Wilcox was. And you think about that time, a lot of Buffalo's elite, a lot of those wealthy families, they had houses up and down the lakeside. They weren't in the city when this happened. They were still summering out in Hamburg and Angola. Mrs. Wilcox was not in residence at the house until the morning of September 14, 1901. There are first-hand accounts of her displeasure with how the house looked when photographers were in her home. As you can imagine, there's a new president in residence at this house, and the world's media was clamoring to get pictures of him. And they were, any of the ladies in the room here, can you think of how you would feel if newspapermen were going through your house and you hadn't been there to clean it? Mrs. Wilcox did arrive. We have some accounts from the daughters. One daughter was young enough to be having cakes and goodies in the kitchen while all of this was happening. The eldest daughter arrived just moments right when the oath of office finalized in the afternoon of September 14th with her fiance. But there's these first-hand accounts from this family of all of this happening in their house. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. This is a picture of Theodore Roosevelt walking up Delaware Avenue. He was given a lunch at 641 Delaware by Ansley, and he couldn't eat. There was so much on his mind. And he was just now a young president. Food was the last thing on his mind. In fact, when we look at his diet, we all picture Theodore Roosevelt as this big, rambunctious character, this bully and this Rough Rider with a thick waist. But in fact, when in his youth, he and Edith could largely be considered vegetarians. They didn't eat a lot of rich foods. They didn't eat a lot of meat. So this acclaimed hunter, that image that we have of Theodore Roosevelt was something that was developed later in his life, after, when he was in office. Roosevelt instead drank gallons of coffee every day. And actually, if you come to the site, you'll tour, you'll smell coffee in the dining room because, again, he wouldn't eat, but he drank gallons of coffee when he was there. Roosevelt took a quick walk, that mile walk up to the Milburn house to pay his respects to Mrs. McKinley and see McKinley's body. Mrs. McKinley was, as you can imagine, besides herself and did not receive him. So he made haste and returned to 641 Delaware to take the oath of office. Now, a lot of people ask, why wasn't this a public event? Why didn't it take place at City Hall or at Old Erie County Hall? The reason for that was because they wanted to do this as quickly as possible. Roosevelt did not want to make a spectacle of this because he felt that it was inappropriate considering we had just lost a very popular president. And he also knew that he wasn't very well liked in the political elite. This is 641 Delaware Avenue, the afternoon of September 14, 1901. You see members of the media here, you see a camera stand right here. The house looks largely the same. I mean, obviously there's no ivy growing up the side. We're not covered in black and we do not have the flag out. We're looking at doing that next year and I'll tell you why in a moment. But this is what the scene looked like. Here it is in color. This is a postcard that was colorized at the turn of the century. Ansley Wilcox residence, Delaware Avenue, Buffalo, where Vice President took the oath of office. Roosevelt took the oath of office just after 3:30 p.m. in the afternoon on September 14th. That's 13 hours after the death of President McKinley. Most of that travel time from the Adirondacks. There's no photograph of the oath of office being administered. The reason for that, there were 2 photographers in the room clamoring to get the first photo of the president. A camera got knocked over, as you can imagine. They were the big box cameras on a tripod like this. One photographer accidentally knocked the other photographer's camera over. Roosevelt had had enough. He was pretty miffed and he kicked him out. So that is why we do not have a photograph of Theodore Roosevelt taking the oath of office. In fact, we have a number of sketches. This is the sketch we like to refer to at the TR site, mainly because you can see the background of the house. And it is very reminiscent of the actual setting. The other reason we like to bring it out is because there are women in it. The women are often overlooked in this scenario. Mrs. Wilcox, members of the family were there to observe the oath of office, but this is the only image that depicts women being present in the room. So this is the official sketch that we at the TR site like to use because we feel this is the most comprehensive and representative of what actually took place. 50 people in one family library gathered around the president to take his oath of office. Roosevelt did not use a Bible. A lot of people ask why. Well, funny enough, again, in a family library, the Wilcoxes couldn't find their family Bible. Judge Hazel, who was to administer the oath, had brought a special Bible but left it in his chambers. So it was a comedy of errors. And Roosevelt ultimately took the oath of office without a Bible. Many people ask where the Bible is, and when you come on a tour, you won't see a Bible in the library at all. Now this is a stereograph. This is what the room looked like. I'm going to go back to what I mentioned about Mrs. Wilcox and not being in residence when the media was there. You'll see here, all of these books are perfectly lined up. You will see a table with a Bible on it. This is not how it looked when the president took the oath of office. In fact, Mrs. Wilcox actually placed this table where President Roosevelt stood, and she placed a Bible on that table to be representative of where the oath was administered. This photograph was taken that afternoon after everyone had left the room, and you could kind of see some imperfections. There's some ruffles in the carpet, there's some curtains that are amiss, there are curtain rod rings that are not centered, and there are books that are disheveled in the background. This is how the room actually looked on September 14, 1901, and this is how it has been recreated to look today. So this is the same image in black and white, but this is the room today at 641 Delaware Avenue. Let's talk about Theodore Roosevelt for a second, because when you come for a tour at the TR site, we don't end on September 14, 1901. Of course, we talk about the context. I mean, Roosevelt was in residence at 641 Delaware for 2 days. He joined Ida McKinley and the body of President McKinley on the presidential train when it departed for Washington that following Monday. And he was the leader-in-chief during the memorial events that took place in Buffalo. Does anyone know who this man is? Thank you, Booker T. Washington. This is significant to our story. During our tour, we talk about a number of key issues that we faced in 1901. Racial and social equity, immigration and urban poverty, big business-labor relations, environmental conservation, the U.S. role in global affairs and the threat of war overseas. Do these all sound familiar? They are the same issues we faced in 1901, the same issues we face today, just in a different context. And these are the issues we talk about that Roosevelt faced when he became a young president. Booker T. Washington and Roosevelt had had a long time communication. In fact, Booker T. shaped a lot of Theodore Roosevelt's views on race and social equity. As vice president, Roosevelt was supposed to visit Tuskegee Institute in 1901 and have dinner with Booker T. Washington to talk about race and racial equity. But when he became president, he knew that that couldn't happen. So he sent a letter to Booker T. Washington on September 14, 1901, from Buffalo, New York, 641 Delaware Avenue. That letter is now in the Library of Congress. We have a copy at the site, inviting Booker T. Washington to dine at the White House instead. And that dinner did take place about a month later in October 1901. Booker T. Washington entered the White House and had dinner with Theodore Roosevelt. A number of historians have written about this dinner. It's called the Guest of Honor. It is seen as one of the first major steps towards civil rights in the 20th century. It is also President Roosevelt's first scandal. As you can imagine, in 1901, the idea of a black man entering through the front doors of the White House and having dinner with this affluent, Gilded Age character, it was not well received, especially in the American South, like Maryland. But that letter was sent from the Theodore Roosevelt site at 641 Delaware Avenue. So we talk a lot about Booker T. Washington, and we talk a lot about the influences of Theodore Roosevelt and his presidency. This desk is Anson Wilcox's desk, and it was the desk that Theodore Roosevelt used when he was in residence, when we were the unofficial White House for 2 days in 1901. He penned his letter to Booker T. Washington from here. He also wrote his first presidential proclamation, issuing a period of mourning for the nation. Wilcox was a very good self-promoter, and actually he found Roosevelt's notes crumpled up in a trash bin and he saved them. They are now at the Buffalo History Museum. So the first draft of the presidential proclamation is in Buffalo, and a number of other of Roosevelt's writings are in Buffalo as well, because Mr. Wilcox was such a good self-promoter. The coat that Roosevelt was wearing when he took the oath of office is also at the Buffalo History Museum. Again, it was Mr. Wilcox's coat, which Roosevelt, of course, returned. And as a board member for the Buffalo and Erie County Historical Society, of course, Mr. Wilcox gave it to the History Museum, never knowing that his own house would be a museum and a national site. The new energy in Washington. This is an image of the president we as a nation were not used to. We were not used to seeing a young man with a young family in the White House, a young, large family, boisterous family, a first daughter who had a pet snake, this young family who liked to roller skate in the White House. Edith, famously, is the one who started using White House as a term, and that's really when it was coined. When you come to the TR site, we actually have a recreation of President Roosevelt's office on the second floor to talk more about his presidency. We like to ask the students, why is this presidential office different than the ones that you were seeing in today's era? Does anyone know the answer to that question? Why would TR's office look different than the president's office today?
It's not the Oval Office.
Correct, it's square. It is not the Oval Office. The West Wing was still under construction during the Roosevelt administration. TR site is steeped in presidential history. Does anyone recognize, well, let's do this. This gentleman here with this nice white mustache, that's Mr. Wilcox. These are the front steps of the Theodore Roosevelt inaugural site, 641 Delaware Avenue. Who's this guy? Taft. That is President Taft, the longtime frenemy of Theodore Roosevelt. Wilcox, although he was a good friend and supporter of TR, actually, he endorsed Taft for president later on. And Taft did visit the site. He did not stay as a guest, though, but he famously took a nap at the Theodore Roosevelt site. So we like to claim that two presidents slept under our roof. Unfortunately, neither of them in Washington, but either way, we'll take Taft. So Taft was a residence there. I just want to kind of talk about the history of the site here real quick, if I can. The building itself dates back to the 1830s. It was built originally as the officers' quarters for the Buffalo Barracks. At the corner of North and Delaware Avenue, that was the northernmost part of the city of Buffalo. In the 1830s, there was some unrest in Canada, and the people of Buffalo largely remembered the burning of Buffalo in 1813, and they demanded a fort be built. President Van Buren made that happen, and he put money together that Buffalo could build a fort at the corner of North and Delaware. It was called the Poinsett Barracks, named for Joel Poinsett, also the namesake for the poinsettia flower. So we have a unique Buffalo tie to the poinsettia flower because of that name and because of the Buffalo Barracks. Now, the barracks were short-lived. They were ultimately replaced by Fort Porter, which is closer to Niagara River. Of course, the Fort Porter was torn down for the construction of Peace Bridge. I heard it in the back. Good job, yes. That's where the fort was, and they tore it down for the Peace Bridge. By the 1840s, this site became a house. The first resident was Joseph Maston, who was one of Buffalo's first mayors. The political history keeps going. It gets even deeper. When this was the officers' quarters, one of the officers' wives who lived in the site was Anna Taylor Woods. She is the daughter of President Zachary Taylor and the sister-in-law to the President of the Confederacy. So again, this site at 641 Delaware, while Theodore Roosevelt took the oath of office there in 1901, its presidential history goes way farther back and culminates with the visits of Roosevelt and Taft in the early 20th century. So let's talk about what happened to the site after 1901. You know, the Roosevelts and the Wilcoxes stayed in touch. The Wilcoxes did attend the second inauguration and were invited to the inaugural ball. They wrote for many years. In fact, when Roosevelt did eventually die, Wilcox was beside himself with that death. In the 1930s, the Wilcox family had largely died or moved out of Western New York, and the house was auctioned, and most of the pieces inside. It became a restaurant, the Catherine Lawrence Dining Rooms. This is an image of how the family dining room was converted into a dining room. Walls were ripped out, the bookcases in the bookshelf were ripped out, the banistered staircase in the front hall was demolished, the carriage house was torn down for a parking lot, and it served as a restaurant in the 1940s and 50s. Here's another image of the Catherine Lawrence Dining Rooms. This is the morning room, which actually served as the president's office, where he had a telegraph line installed and where he wrote his famous letter to Booker T. Washington. In a lot of ways, though, this restaurant saved this site. Mid-century, Buffalo was booming. The old houses were coming down. Skyscrapers were going up. These mid-century constructions were being built up and down Delaware Avenue. In 1959, Catherine Lawrence died, and the restaurant was shuttered. And the site was largely abandoned. Now, Benderson Development did purchase the site. There's been some research on this matter. It was not purchased with the intent to tear it down, but to redevelop it. But at that time, again, we lost the Milborn House just down the street in 1957. We lost the Larkin Administration Building. We were starting to lose a lot of our architectural heritage in the downtown area. And the people of Buffalo said, enough. The ladies of the Junior League stepped forward with a $50,000 pledge in 1968 to restore this house. about a little over $400,000 in today's market value. And they did that. They raised far beyond $50,000. We like to call ourselves the first junior league showcase house. Are there any junior leaguers in the room? Yeah? Thank you for your help. Thank you for saving the site. This is the first successful, publicly driven preservation advocacy project in Buffalo. We have a true gem in Buffalo. It is what a fully restored historic house could look like and what it can do. And we're so much more than just a static museum. We have interactive exhibits, and we also serve as a forum for civic engagement and promote civic readiness. We're an early voting location. In fact, if anyone in Erie County wants to vote in the primary, we will be open on June 14th for not only Allentown Art Festival, but early voting as well. We also host 2 naturalization ceremonies at that site each year. One around President's Day and one, of course, around the anniversary of September. This site was saved and it was added to the National Registry in 1966. We are Buffalo and Erie County's first National Historic Registry landmark. There was an amendment to this legislation in 1980 that listed the Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural Site Foundation, the 501c3 that operates the site, that employs me and our staff and maintains the collection. That enabling legislation indicates that the Department of Interior can support up to 2/3 of our operating budget, and that the people of Buffalo still interpret this site. Although it is a national site, it is the only national park site in Buffalo and Western New York. We do receive a portion of our funding from the Department of Interior. Right now it's about a little less than 1/3 of our operating, even though the legislation indicates it should be about 2/3 of our operating. We have not been funded in 2025 yet, but we are working on it. This is the site today. This is what preservation can do in our community. The Parish House was reconstructed and opened in 2008 as a visitor center. It is accessible. We have a gallery space that is rentable. We have a state-of-the-art collections facility in the basement. And the people of Buffalo, again, came together and saved this important national site, which we still have, and which we still love. And we'll have a long history here today, long before any of us are gone. Long after, I should say. But I wanted to talk about a little bit what we're doing now. Our work is not done. Preservation, maintenance is preservation. We have about $3 to $5 million worth of capital projects that are going into the site between now and 2030 through the House of the National Park Service. It costs $650,000 to paint the house. That includes the roof. We have a red roof, so we have to paint the roof too. Next year is a very important year. We have America 250. It's 250th anniversary of our country. It is also the 125th anniversary of the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. And we are going big. We are planning a number of special public programs, a number of collaborations with outside organizations to commemorate the unexpected inauguration that took place in Buffalo. September 14th of 2026 will actually be a Monday. We're planning some memorial services at the McKinley Monument in the morning. We're planning some wreath laying ceremonies throughout the city, including the sites of the Temple of Music, the sites of the Milbourne House, and of course 641 Delaware, to commemorate McKinley, his presidency, his tragic assassination, and the unexpected inauguration of TR in our fair city. We continue to fight for funding at the federal level. This building is owned by the American people. It is owned by the Department of the Interior, and our foundation raises 2/3 of the operating costs associated with this building. We own the collection. That was a special thing that we did with the National Park Service so that that collection would belong to the people of Buffalo, and not just to the American people, but to the people of Western New York. We own the exhibits as well, so all of that interpretation that is done locally. In 2023, we had about 24,000 visitors. In 2024, that number skyrocketed to just under 29,000 visitors. And we continue to see growth. We fit in with grades 4, 8, 11th, and 12th New York State curriculum. We also have projects for the Seal of Civic Readiness that is now offered in New York State. Again, we continue to host naturalization ceremonies, early voting. And we continue to offer a number of opportunities for other nonprofits across our community to share the space. We have some cool projects that are coming up. We are actually developing a virtual avatar, so you can, from the comfort of your home, visit the site virtually, take a tour with a virtual docent who is closed captioned and speaks 30 languages, I might add. You also are among the first to hear this. This isn't public knowledge yet because we're going to do a nice press release on this one once it's done, but we are in the process of developing a hologram of Theodore Roosevelt, which we hope to unveil just in time for the anniversary this year, this summer, in 2025. We're developing a new website. We have a number of programs that we're working on, and next year in August and September, we'll have a special commemorative exhibit in our gallery space focused on the Pan American Exposition, McKinley and Roosevelt. And we are inviting our friends from the McKinley National Site to join us in this commemoration as well. So we'll have some more friendly faces and reprisers here. We actually have a reenactor who is TR and a reenactor who is McKinley, and they are both planning to be with us next year. We won't do the full reenactment, but we will have them with us as we commemorate both of these intriguing figures. That is the Theodore Roosevelt site. It is largely a site that's sort of been forgotten locally, with the exception of field trips as they come in. We get a number of national people and internationals at our site, and they follow the National Park Pass. And that's really important because, again, we're the only National Park Service site in Western New York. Our closest one is the Women's Rights Museum in Seneca Falls. We're 2 hours away. So we're bringing people from across the globe to the site. And right now, we're on a mission to recapture our local audience and bring them back to the site and learn about what it means to be an active and engaged citizen, just like TR. We're excited about the future. We have a number of other plans coming up that I can't share publicly, but we hope we will see you at the site soon. 2 events to promote. We used to have a dinner. We're actually changing that to a reception on the garden. It is our Exemplary Citizenship Reception, where we give out our Theodore Roosevelt Exemplary Citizenship Award every fall. That event will take place the Thursday before the anniversary. This year, that is the September 11th anniversary. So we will be doing some collaborations with our local firehouse. We also give out the Theodore Roosevelt Police Award. And we will be working with our local officials on commemorating active and engaged citizens in Buffalo and Western New York. Also new this year, we're doing a rebrand of our Christmas events. So starting the Saturday before Thanksgiving, you can come see the Carriage House decked out fully in its Christmas grandeur with the help of our local garden clubs who volunteer with us to decorate the house for Christmas. So you can come to the house and see it decked out for Christmas, just like you would have in 1901, although the decorations might be a little different. But that's the Theodore Roosevelt site. I'm happy to take any questions, but I wanted to come before you today to show you where we're at, where we're going, and talk more about what we can do with this place for all of you.
Anyone have any questions for Spencer?
I do have brochures. I will leave them behind. Feel free to take. This is for 2025 and has a list of programs and events that you can attend both in person and virtually.
Those programs will be up here. Yes, Barb?
So for people that don't know, I think Lenore, what's her right title?
Is Lenore's parents here, first of all?
They're not in the room, but
Oh, okay.
Lenore is Director of Collections, right?
She is our operations manager, is her role, yeah.
Operations manager. Her parents live here at Fox Run, so we have a tie-in with the Theodore Roosevelt House.
Yes, thank you. Lenore was our curator for 25 years, and then she left to go into a grant writing position. She left for about 3 years, and then we posted a position, and I encouraged her to apply. She came back to us.
Yeah.
We have 4 staff members who have been there for over 25 years each. So there's a lot of dedication behind the site, and there's a lot of dedication behind its public engagement piece. Barb, thank you for that.
Thank you, Spencer. We have a little gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for coming. Let's give them a round of
Thank
applause.
you, everyone. I hope to see you soon.
And one quick announcement from Peg Fletcher before we all leave. Hold on, wait for the mic.
Left over. It's well